Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes, and welcome back to the YoVideogames podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
And once again, thank you to all our generous patrons who kept us going for over 340 episodes.
Yeah, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogamespodcast. Due to the week is God Night. Thank you, God
Thank
Night.
you, God Night.
I think this is his second time being due to the week, but it's been a few years.
Well, the last 2 years are kind of an abyssal hole for me.
Yeah,
so
fair.
Everything kind of just like
vanishes. Nothing matters and everything is burning. Anyway, we've got another sponsor to thank. Or rather, we've got another special person to thank. It's our sponsor, Manscaped. Thank you, Manscaped. Right now is the perfect time to check out their Platinum package. It's sort of a collection of all their best stuff, the Lawnmower 4.0, through all of our favorite stuff, like their deodorant, their body wash, their shampoo, their crop preserver, which is
ball cream / deodorant.
Which is fantastic. Yeah, I got to say, it's probably our favorite thing. But the new thing that I'm using a lot of is their deodorant. It's a premium deodorant, same scent. Everything has the same scent. You're going to smell the same from tip to taint.
I've actually been using their shampoo a lot and body wash.
It's pretty good. Yeah, I use the body wash a lot. I don't need a ton of shampoo, so one bottle's going to last me 2 fucking years. But we're big fans of all of it. Another thing that I've been using the Lawnmower 4.0 for is as summer starts, I've been trimming my armpit hair. Makes me sweat way less, so I don't even care if that's weird. But I had it came to me where I was trimming my balls, which I guess paint a picture for you. And then I was like, yeah, I'll just get the armpit hair real quick, and it's worked out pretty good for me. So if you've never tried or you're uncomfortable with the idea of it, let me just tell you, I sweat about half as much now. My pits don't sweat nearly as much. It's fucking great.
From pit to pit, if you want your stuff to not smell like shit,
taint and pits, just get it all. For your arm balls.
It's funny because you think about it. Both parts of those bodies, they just sound really unpleasant.
Yeah,
your taint and your pits, like all of that sounds terrible. So and that's why you got Manscaped products to help you, deal with that by trimming it around. And
the idea came to me because I was like, oh, this is gentle enough to use on my balls, perhaps.
If it's gentle enough for your balls, it's probably gentle enough for anything, honestly.
And that's why I use it. And if you're curious about it, you should check out manscaped.com and use our code YoVG, all caps, for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. That's go to manscaped.com, use our code YoVG, all caps, for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. Your balls will thank you.
And will your partner.
And especially your partner. Partner will real. To be honest, it's more about your partner.
It certainly can be. And even if you are single, I mean, you never know when things are going to get lucky. So
I have that deep hope for you.
Don't screw a lucky night out by getting home and then someone comes out and is just like, "Hey, you want to take a trip to my Everglades?" No.
Swamp nuts.
Make sure you help make sure you seal the deal.
So you had an interesting topic idea this week where...
Yeah, it came to me. Well, okay, so this is going to be a little... I don't know how you want to look at this, but I'm addressing something that has been acknowledged by Capcom.
Oh.
Because a lot of... There's a sort of unspoken rule about, like, it's kind of bad taste to talk about leaks or leaks suck, yada, yada, yada. But, like... Street Fighter 6's roster was straight up fucking leaked, after, the game was revealed or had a proper reveal this month. And even Capcom basically acknowledged it because it was the whole fucking thing. It was art. It was characters, just straight up, just here's all the concept art for every character in the game. Or actually, we don't really know. We just know that here's a spreadsheet of all these characters' names, artwork, and it spread like wildfires everywhere. Capcom even acknowledged it. fucks up all their marketing reveal plans. So now everyone knows who's coming. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to take a piece of that, and something that struck me from the leaks is that in this roster we have the return of the World Warriors, the original 8, and there's a couple things that come to me because, like, one, this is Street Fighter 6 release wise. It's 30 odd years since Street Fighter 2, right? And then, but like timeline wise, now it's also the end of the end of the timeline as well, because for a long time Street Fighter, it was like Street Fighter 1, 2, 3, and then 4 and 5 were before 3, and there's a very big there's a very big reason for that,
because everyone's getting too goddamn old.
Well, it's because 3 had a brand new roster, and people just didn't like it, for whatever reason. It was one of those, like, it's hard to sort of gravitate to or whatever for whatever reason. Whatever reason people were just not gravitating towards the original, like the new characters in Street Fighter 3. Like, it didn't acquire that popularity, and that's a hard thing to do just naturally, right?
Well, I mean, is it because the characters sucked, or is it just because people,
and that's kind of what we're getting into. I mean, that's the real thing here, because some people, fighting game aficionados, some of them really did like, a lot of the new characters, and like people like Dudley and people like Makoto, but people were less hot on 12 and maybe Necro. Maybe not as big on them, but people did like other characters like Alex and Hugo, and there is a fandom for Q Max.
It's a one-man fandom.
And even people eventually grew to like fucking Gil. But yeah, like, anyway, so like we're looking at the leak list here. It's Ryu, Ken, Zangief, Dhalsim, E Honda, Blanca, Guile, Chun Li, and then so you have your original 8. Now that's not including the bosses. There's actually no Balrog, Vega, Sagat, or M Bison. So the 4 bosses in Street Fighter 2 not here. Cammy and DJ are here.
Right,
they're from Super Street Fighter 2. But after that, and Akuma, I should just put Akuma in there as well, of course. But after that, it's like there's a couple from 4 and 5, and then a good helping of new characters. And I actually like the new characters. I think the new characters actually look pretty cool. Actually,
well, what is a good helping? Because it's like 3 new characters.
Good help. Let's see. Well, Luke's hard to say because it's hard to say. Do we consider Luke a new character? Because, like, he did show up at the end of Street Fighter 5, but it kind of feels like Luke was thrown in to keep 5 going while they waited for 6 to come out. But you've also got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
There's 7 new characters.
7 new characters, right?
That's actually pretty. That's a pretty good amount of new characters.
That is it's a stacked roster game.
Which compared to 5 is brilliant. Because 5 had like nobody when it came out.
Yeah, when 5 came out, that was a disaster. Yeah. So, and I'm not complaining. This is not a complaint that, oh God, the original World Warriors are back again, right? I am not complaining about that in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I really love the way some of the character redesigns look, right? But it just is sort of like, I'm kind of like posing the question of, like, is Capcom ever going to be able to get away from the original 8? Because they tried to with Street Fighter 3, and it went very, at the time, for the first 5 to 10 years, went poorly. It was received poorly
for the first 5 to 10 years. Like,
and then there was a resurgence, and people suddenly warmed up to 3 a lot, right? And Alpha was kind of the same way, where like Alpha 1 didn't have a lot of characters in general, but it still had some of the mainstays. And they just kept adding more original mainstay characters, into Alpha 2, and then Alpha 3 had everyone, right? And it's a lot of people's favorite Street Fighter. A lot of people will say Street Fighter Alpha 3 is their favorite Street Fighter game. because it has this giant ass roster of old characters, new characters, yada yada.
I mean,
right?
big roster is almost always better than.
Yeah. And then let's jump ahead a little. Street Fighter 4 gets announced. And Street Fighter 4 originally comes out in arcades in Japan, and then, out here in SoCal, a bunch of people imported the arcade machines at great personal cost and whatever. But it was done, right? And when Street Fighter 4 first came out, it was just the original 12, because Sagat and Bison, Balrog, DJ were still, or sorry, Vega were still there, still had the bosses, and there were 4 new characters, but it was literally just, here's Street Fighter 2, here's 4 new characters, and then over time, the roster ballooned. This is before it even got to 360 PS3. By the time it got to the 360 and PS3, they added a whole bunch more characters in Street Fighter 4. So most people, they don't remember a time when Street Fighter 4 was just the Street Fighter 2 roster plus the 4 newcomers. That's it.
Well, because the local arcade that I remember, the first Street Fighter 4 cabinet that I saw was at a local Tilt arcade, and I want to say it only had 8 characters.
Yeah. Well, there was a weird time unlock mechanic too, as well. So I wonder if maybe there was something there, but it was small. It was a tiny roster.
Yeah. The cabinet was huge, though. Do you remember how big that cabinet was?
Yeah, I do.
It was a big LCD screen and shit. That's actually probably why it looked so small, is because when you see the character select screen on that huge screen, it's just this tiny little block of characters.
I'm trying to remember if
maybe it was 10 characters.
I'm trying to remember if it had the bosses as well.
As selectable characters?
Yeah.
That I do not remember.
I'm just looking just to double check this.
Oh yeah, this roster doesn't have Bison.
Can that Street Fighter 2 Champion additional with 4 additional rosters new to the series? There, right. So it did have the original bosses. So it did have the full 12 characters from Street Fighter 2 Turbo plus the 4 new ones. Yeah, and then there were bosses, hidden characters that eventually got added over time. I remember this. Dan, Fei Long, Sakura, Cammy, Gen, and Rose were added. Right. Yeah. So it was actually 16 originally, I guess. But yeah, you're right. It looked small. I do remember very, very early days where it was just kind of wow, this roster's pretty tiny. It's 8 and 8,
Yeah, see, I guess I'm misremembering it, because I have a distinct memory of it being really tiny on that screen. I really do think it was 8 in the Tilt. But this was the first week that I saw it. I don't know if it's the first week that it was out. It was the very first week. So if there was a time delay, because wasn't that also one of the first arcade cabinets that was hooked up to the internet?
Yeah, it did have, well, I mean, it wasn't the first in history, but it was probably the first one a lot of places out here were doing. I'm showing you the image here. I believe that is the image of the launch roster or the arcade roster of Street Fighter 4. It's small.
Oh yeah, maybe, yeah. I don't know. I could be misremembering it. It's entirely possible I'm misremembering, but I do remember one of the conversations, and arcade employees will just sometimes just make shit up.
Yeah.
Let us be yeah, this is actually the most powerful arcade machine that's ever been made. It's actually a Ferrari that they turned into this. One of the things that I remember, and this is why that cabinet sticks with me, is that the guy was oh, eventually you're going to be able to play against a person wherever, even if you can't find a person in the arcade to play against, because it's connected to the internet, you're going to be able to play against some other arcade cabinet somewhere else. Yeah, in free play.
And Japan does do that.
Yeah, well, it never fucking happened here.
Probably for obvious reasons.
Tim. Actually, don't remember that guy's name.
It was true for Japan. It is true for Japan. But yeah, anyways, point is we get to Street Fighter 4, and it's we're just bringing back Street Fighter 2 characters, and we're gonna add some 4 new ones. And then as it get to console and over time DLC, they add a bunch more, right? And yeah, and then that leads us to Street Fighter 5, which is it's just, we don't really have to go to that, but it's a disaster. its roster is peaky. I don't know, like anemic. Like I don't know how. God, what would you even base roster? Did it actually have these characters? Birdie, Cammy, Chun Li, Dalsum. Was Karen there at the start? She was not there at the start, was she? Oh my god!
I don't think I don't think all these characters were there at the start. But
It feels like they weren't. I don't know.
one
Game
thing
featured 16 characters at launch, 4 of whom were new to for the game. Maybe there was. We played a lot of early versions of Street Fighter V with very tiny rosters.
looking at the Street Fighter 4 roster and reminding myself of the art, I like the art style in 6 so much better.
Yeah.
Seeing them side by side here now, where I'm just like, oh yeah, 6 looks so good.
Yes, it does.
The stages. That was something that annoyed me about 4. Yeah, I guess it was 4. The stages in 4 didn't really look all that interesting, whereas in 6 here, they look interesting as hell. Just looking at like the Chun-Li fighting Ryu, that stage, the poppies, or not the poppies.
I feel like I could
blossoms.
talk for an hour just about this in general, and I really fucking feel that stage backgrounds do not get enough appreciation. Like, I'm glad that Max is, going out and making the campaign to get rid of the training stage, like from multiplayer.
Because
like,
everybody uses it because nobody likes the distractions, I guess.
Yeah. There's and he's like, please take it out. Like, don't even let people select it, kind of thing.
But do you argue that character design is more important than set design, or do you argue that set design is more important than character?
Character design is more important for sales because it is part of the holy trinity of making a fighting game successful, and that is presentation, roster, content. Like, presentation does it look good? Does it look, does it flashy? Does it look good? Whatever. And then roster is less about the design. That's presentation. But the roster to me is like, make sure you have characters in the game people want to play as.
Right. Yeah.
And content is like, you got to give people value for the buck, especially in a day and age of so many free to play stuff. If your fighting game doesn't have like content, things to do in it, like that are perceived as valuable, you're gonna have a hard sell at 60. But
what you really need is Zangief all the time. All we play as is Zangief.
Well, see, there you go. That's kind of and that kind of gets to the crux of my my point here, and that is, I think the problem that Street Fighter kind of had, if you will, is that when you get to 3 and they're trying to do a roster reset, right? They're trying to do jumping into the future timeline wise, we're doing a roster reset.
Right.
People don't know who these characters are. They don't know how to play them. And I mean, really, unless you're like a kid coming into the world of video games for the first time, like, you don't have the inkling to like learn fighting game characters. I mean, unless the FGC will be like, oh, fuck you, I love learning new characters. Understand where I'm coming from here.
But the FGC is in general, fuck you.
Yes. Well, so, many people look at Street Fighter and go, I remember playing as the big Russian wrestler. I remember playing as the sumo guy. I remember playing as the stretchy arms guy, or like I remember playing as, they remember Guile, like Sonic Boom. They remember that. They see a new Street Fighter game. They do not see the character they played. They basically go, eh. They do not have the inkling to learn how to play new characters.
I'm convinced that the horniness for One Piece swimsuits these days is entirely linked to Cammy. And I gotta be honest, I'm fucking on board. People are all like, oh, One Pieces can't be sexy. Get the fuck out of here.
Well, I mean, it helps that Cammy's swimsuit rides up her ass,
Yeah, she's a specimen for sure. I'm not arguing that, but
how muddy is that? Is that like part of the swimsuit?
You know what? I'd find out.
Oh, well, that it's funny because they're in the league roster. We see a redesign for Cammy, and she's wearing yoga pants, and people are fucking pissed about it.
I don't know, man. Who's mad about that? Everybody likes yoga pants. Whoever came up with yoga pants.
Lots of people.
Well,
she's wearing yoga pants and like a 2-piece like top with like a little a sports bra and a super stylish jacket. I actually kind of like Cammy's new design. I think it's kind of good, actually.
Everybody knows the sports bra and yoga pants is the hotness. You go to the gym, you see all that shit, you're just like, yes, I'm on board with this. Now, hey, look, am I going to say that it's hotter than the One Piece? No, I'm not a liar. I'm not going to lie to you like that. But am I upset about it? Also, no. Yoga pants are also pretty fucking awesome.
Well, and from the leaked footage that people got out there, like there are classic costumes in the game, so it's kind of a non-issue, anyways. But
Are they mad that Chun-Li is in a blue bodysuit, basically?
I haven't heard it as much.
Skin tight bodysuit. Oh god.
Yeah. Well, Chun was never as showy as Cammy was, you know.
I feel like there. Which game was it where she wasn't in the bodysuit though? Like her legs were totally.
Cammy?
No, I mean Chun-Li has a costume where it's like.
She has her alpha costume, which again is yoga pants. And then she has her original one, like whatever the Chinese, whatever dress fight or whatever, with her legs fully exposed.
Yeah. Also hot.
But not as Cammy's always been sort of a sex symbol. You know what I mean?
Cammy is the voice of a generation.
Uh-huh.
There's a whole lot of kids who grew up in the 90s who they had their sexual awakening seeing that.
Which is funny because you know, like you have all these other like just there's Zangief right there. He's big old bear in a Speedo. I'm sure that did something for someone, you know.
I mean, it did a lot for me. I was like, I want to look like that. I want to be a big old fucking beast to the point where it's like I wear a Speedo and that is the least notable thing about me. I'm okay being dumb as long as I'm hot, you know?
Well, it's like someone was arguing about, and they kind of got dunked on rightly. I saw them where they're basically saying that like, you know, characters like Cammy and Chun-Li are meant to be hot in you know and beautiful, and like someone like Ryu, you know, you see him in the games now. He's not some hot hot badass, and it's like, wait, excuse me. Ever since they put that beard on Ryu, what has his name officially fucking been?
I mean, I feel like Ken, Ryu, Zangief to an extent. Dalsum? I mean, Dalsum's wearing fucking.
Well, Dawson got a big old gray beard now.
Yeah, I mean now he's a daddy. A zaddy? Which type of
Granddaddy?
granddaddy?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Dawson was never turning anybody on.
Yeah, he might have been though. He had that skinny fit going on. People who are into yoga dudes.
Yeah, I'm sure someone gets turned on by Blanca and his electric personality.
I mean, Blanca's got an animalism to him that, you know, dude fucks. Like, there's got to be someone out there that's like, you know what I really want today? I want to get fucked. And Blanca's the man to do it. Blanca's the thing to do it. I'm not really sure where Blanca lays on that spectrum. But the point is like, Ken is Patrick Swayze. Like, that's all Ken is. Patrick Swayze in a fucking red gi. You know, Ryu is, I would say Ryu's always been classically handsome.
Well, I mean, now that especially that they've dropped the top half, so he's just like mostly exposed, you know, upper body. You know, he grew out his beard. He's sexy daddy Ryu. So I don't know. It was just funny to see this person get dunked on for saying like, you know, Ryu's not like, you know, hot or badass. It's like, the fuck are you talking about? all the gay men and girl gamers were like, excuse you.
I mean, I'm not gay, and I'll be like, Ryu's hot. Yeah. He got it. I don't even have a problem with that.
But
I just talked about, you know, Zangief being that hotness in a Speedo. I don't give a shit. If I go to a Russian prison, my dearest hope. Zangief, keep me warm at night.
I am Red Cyclone.
Keep me warm at night in Siberia. I'll give a fuck at that point.
He trained with bears. He is a bear. But yeah, like just anyways, the whole general point here is that like Street Fighter 6 is kind of playing it safe, probably for the best, and including the original World Warriors in here. Now we are getting a little bit of a shaft because no Bison, no Sagat, Vega, Balrog, and there's definitely going to be a chunk of people who are going to be like, "What the fuck?" Like, I played Sagat, I played Bison, I played Vega, Balrog, like people who played those bosses, like everyone at least dabbled in the guy because he had a fucking claw arm.
Yeah, well, I mean, Vega and Sagat both really fucking cool. I mean, Sagat he did Muay Thai, and
Yeah.
and I mean, Muay Thai is still one of the coolest martial arts. Period.
And there's no Adon. Well, thank God there's no Adon. I hate Adon. Piece of shit can die in hell.
I don't even know who Adon is, so that doesn't
fucking
hurt.
alpha Muay Thai rival to Sagat. Fuck him.
But
Hate him.
Vega is still one of the coolest looking.
Yeah.
I never really understood what his martial art was supposed to be, but I don't give a shit because he was cool.
I mean, he's from Spain. He just jumps all over the place and stabs you with a claw. Like,
yeah, he has the slashy. Is that supposed to be? Is it supposed to be a real martial art? I actually don't know.
I don't think Vega ever was supposed to represent any sort of martial art. Cage fighting, I think, because like the cage would drop on his stage and he could climb the cage. So I think
just looked cool as hell.
He's just like a straight up cage fighter. I don't know.
He's pretty as hell behind that mask.
Yep.
He's a pretty boy. What was the end fight screen where he looks all beat up? Like the mask is all cracked.
Cracked and like sad looking. Which that's another thing. They are bringing back battle damage to Street Fighter 6, so that's pretty cool. You'll see characters at the end of the fight, even if they win, they're all like cut and bruised. And, like I was like fixing his hair, and he's got all this he's got like this fucked up face.
Yes, it'd be even cooler, and I'm sure they won't do it because it sounds like a pain in the ass to me even. But like if it was accurate to where you got the most damage.
Yeah.
Like if you got punched in the head a whole lot and your head's just all fucked up, or like
bruised and shit,
broken ass ribs and stuff, like that'd be cool. I'm not saying they got to go full Mortal Kombat and stuff. I'm just saying like it'd be cool to see that kind of bruising and damage.
Yeah. You're not wrong. But here's the real question. Like, this won't be the last Street Fighter game ever made, but like, even when they get to the theoretical 7 of Street Fighter, like, are they ever going to be able to make a Street Fighter game without the original 8?
No. And is that a bad thing?
Right. And then that's the follow-up question. I'm like, should they?
I don't think you're ever going to have Smash, I think, sort of ruined, in a sense, casual fighting game players because they were spoiled for choice.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's something to be said about like hardcore FGC players. You're never going to have a Street Fighter that doesn't have these core characters in it because that's who the base of the competitive players, that's who they want.
Yeah.
And while I agree that casual players are probably the gateway or the thing you need to succeed as a fighting game, I still think the draw of, those hardcore players is sort of what builds the community. The community gets built around them. Part of the reason why the FGC can be such a fucking just cyclone of dicks is because there's some hardcore players that are just huge smashed assholes. But I think that like you're never going to get away from these core, this core roster because that's who people have 20 years of experience playing.
Yeah.
Like that's just the whole game's built around them. I don't think that's a bad thing either.
Here's the other phenomenon to look at. Like 4 and 5 eventually started adding characters from all over the place at the end of the roster, but
right.
Going with 6, going with the full leaked of 6, there isn't a single person from Street Fighter 3. And there isn't a single person from Alpha, but that's all. I almost feel that's fine because Street Fighter 5 kept adding a ton of Alpha characters to it. Like where it even started to get joked as Street Fighter Alpha 4.
I do remember that.
But here's the interesting thing. There were a number of new characters added to Street Fighter 4, but only one has stuck around. Only one stuck around both into Street Fighter 5 and into Street Fighter 6, and that's fucking Jury. And again, we're going back to to Thirst, but being honest here, Jury's popular because one, she's actually fun to use. Like she's got a lot of fun like fighting mechanics, and two, people are fucking thirsty as shit.
I mean, she's weird as hell looking. She looks
I
like
think
she's out
she's
of a
weird as hell,
Persona.
but yeah, she does. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why. But like, I get it. Like she's always foot fetish people got a big thing for Jury, and then like, people who like that weird sort of style, like
Wait,
wacky crazy stuff.
Why foot fetish people gotta?
Because she's always barefoot. I think 6 is the first time where she's like not super well. She definitely always has feet exposed, and she's always doing like she's standing with like like that, what's that, like on one foot with the other foot like
Crane.
bent halfway up, crane, and
I mean, her outfits are cool looking. She's weird as fuck looking though, and
weird as fuck. But she's a crazy, she's the crazy, like the crazy bitch, like the Harley Quinn,
right, yeah,
and just everyone fucking loves Jury because she's a bad bitch. People love bad bitches, and foot fetish people love her.
I mean,
and
I love bad bitches. That's my problem.
and a lot of thirsty boys love Jury because of like the way she usually animates and some of the costumes she wears and whatever. And it's like she's the only one who stuck around. Like there are all these other characters introduced in Street Fighter 4. Abel, fuck Abel, whatever. El Fuerte, Sea Viper.
Sea Viper's cool as hell.
Rufus didn't come
hottie.
back. Yeah, Hakan never came back. There's 3 people, I guess, from 5 if you count Luke. You got like Rashid and Ed. Fuck Ed. I have no idea why Ed is. They keep why they're bringing Ed back. He was a late addition to 5. He's the most boring looking thing on the fucking planet. No idea what the fuck's going on. I know he's like a boxer type, but fuck, he's ugly. Like, not ugly. Sorry, fuck, he's boring. Rashid's cool. I'm actually glad to see Rashid stick around. But it's interesting.
Looks like he's wearing a World War I French uniform, modified to be more bison-y.
Yeah. Yes.
Fascist.
Yes,
Fascist.
He's supposed to be the successor to Bison.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, Ed's fucking boring.
Oh yeah. Okay. I see this M Bison-esque outfit that they have for Ed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
So there's a weird phenomenon where like it's been 30 some odd years since Alpha, right? And it's been 20 odd years since Street Fighter 3. And there are fan favorites, yes, and they were in Street Fighter 5 and 4. But like going into 6, it's like they'll come down the line later, right? Like, we'll get to them later. And that happened both in 4 and to an extent 5. And here we are starting 6, and it's like we're definitely going to keep 2's roster here, and then maybe down the road we'll get to like alphas and 3s.
Well, do you think they're ever going to do 4 and 5? You think they're ever going to do a move sort of like Smash where they just keep adding to the roster? If the game's really popular, they just keep adding.
Well, it's interesting because like 5's final roster is enormous. So is Street Fighter 4. Is there like Street Fighter 4 ended at like 48 characters or something?
Yeah, what's enormous like compared to Smash?
Nothing's enormous compared to Smash now.
Nothing, yeah.
Smash has like 90 some characters in it or something. Like
yeah, like if you took every character that was ever in a Street Fighter, how many characters would that really add up to?
It would get close to 100. It would definitely you'd definitely be pushing 75, I think.
So the year that they do that, or the generation that they do that, is the last year you'll see Street Fighter. They're going to go out big and be like, fuck it, we're putting everybody in this and just forget everything else.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's... And there's some characters that they've been in, like there's characters, because remember in Street Fighter 1, you only played as Ryu and Ken, right?
Right.
And then some of those characters they eventually brought into Alpha and into other games like Birdie and like Eagle, who's only in CVS2. Eagle's also in a PSP only version of Street Fighter Alpha 3, which is very frustrating because I wish that was, easily playable. Yeah, like you're probably pushing 75, 100, but there are characters like in Street Fighter 1 that never left Street Fighter 1, that have never technically been playable. But like, yeah, if you were to bring every playable character back, put them all into one Street Fighter game, yeah, then you run into that problem that Smash Brothers and I guess now Mario Kart's kind of running into, because like I guess someone was saying like at the end of, because they're doing this whole DLC campaign for Mario Kart tracks, right?
Yeah.
And there's going to be like what close they say like there's going to be like close to 100 racetracks when all the DLC's out, combining everything, right? So it's like Smash Brothers and Mario Kart have a huge issue now where it's like, what does Nintendo do? You know, like do they just they've basically blown their load, so to speak. And part of me is just kind of like, what do you mean we like fuck it, just I wish you'd just keep going. Who cares? Just keep going.
No, they're done. They just wait 5 or 6 years and then re-release it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You just re-released it and you add a couple more characters.
Or they don't even have to. They just every new console generation they come out with from now on, they just re-release that same game. Quote unquote
Well, I mean,
updated for the new graphics and shit.
or whatever. Just it is kind of an interesting thing to sit there and be like, well, what does Street Fighter do? Because I think they're doing the thing that makes the most people happy, right? Which is keep that original roster there. You know, a sprinkling of characters from 4 and 5, and you know, a good helping of new characters. And we'll get to Alpha and 3 later on. You know, we'll get to anyone else from 4 and 5 later on. And it's like, okay, I get it. And this is not the only fighting game. I don't want to just focus on 6, but like, I feel like there are other fighting games that had this issue. Soul Calibur had it. They did Soul Calibur 5. You know, they did a time skip in the story.
Right.
Mostly new cast, a couple of old returning characters. People hated it, but people hated it also because of all the changes to the battle system, and that's what I hated the most too. And so they basically just pulled a reboot. Soul Calibur 6. Oh, it happens before Soul Calibur 1. They bring as many characters back as we can from the original roster. Guilty Gear, kind of the same problem, where Guilty Gear has their original 8 characters, and with Strive, they had the original 8 and they had some newcomers, right? But that was kind of it. There's a ton of characters from Guilty Gear Xrd that are not in Guilty Gear Strive. Tons of missing characters from the older Guilty Gears leading up, but it has the original starting 8 characters from the first Guilty Gear. Now, Guilty Gear is pretty niche. It is there. You couldn't sit there and say like they're appeasing their fan base. I'm like, bro, the fan base that played Guilty Gear 1 on the PlayStation 1, published by Atlas in like '97, that's not a lot of people.
And
so
they're all also in their late 30s and 40s.
Oh my god, I hate fuck you.
Yold as fuck.
So yeah, here's here's a better question. Is this a problem? Does it need a solution, or is it just like fuck it, just know that you're always going to need to include the original, the original 8 from whatever game blew up?
Yeah, like I don't think it's a problem. I really don't. I think especially if they're going to continue to expand on the roster, having those 8 original characters, especially because almost all of them are really beloved.
Yeah.
Like there's not really any one of the originals that people are all like, fuck that character.
That's a really good point. I think you bring up there.
Like you're not going to go wrong by having the original 8.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where does it get tricky, I guess, is if, I don't know, if you stop making the original 8 relevant, I guess. But I really don't see, the game's mechanics have been built around them for so long that you would have to drastically change the next game in order to make all 8 of them not relevant.
Yeah.
Like you'd have to make, I don't know, flying a thing. Like it'd
right.
have to be Dragon Ball.
That's kind of Rashid, but like, yeah, you're right. Like Ryu and Ken are your Shotos and Guile's your Turtle, and then you have your charge characters like Blanca, and you have your grapplers like Zangief, and then you have like your well, Honda's also a charge character, but then you have like your oddballs like Dhalsim, and Chun-Li's a little bit odd because she's kind of like a mixture of things, but yeah. And that's not even getting like we're not even talking about characters types like Rekka's like Guy,
Right,
because
yeah.
Guy was in Alpha. He was definitely in 2. I don't know if he was. I think he was in 1. You have Guy who was in Alpha, and he was in Street Fighter 4, and he wasn't in the other ones for some fucking reason. Um, to my knowledge.
I finally looked up the complete art for all the characters for 6, the leak on that.
Yeah.
And wow, I mean, one, cowards for not putting Zangief in his banana hammock.
It's there.
I mean, I
Everyone
know,
has their classics,
yeah, I know it's gonna be there, but dude, Akuma looks so sick.
right?
Akuma looks disgusting. Like he looks fuck ass mad. Like he looks like he is here to kick the ever living shit out of everybody. Actually, I don't really think there's any one character that looks bad.
Right?
I mean,
Like Akuma is basically there. Do you remember when they gave Akuma a big fucking beard in 5? And it was
yes,
like this big, he looked like a flower,
yeah,
or a lion's mane. We are all calling him Akuma Matata.
yeah.
Capcom got a little annoyed about that. But Akuma in 6 is like, okay, we're not giving up on this big beard idea. We just got to make it work better now. So
He
it feels
looks
like
like
they
Ganondorf.
right.
So I guess I know your character for this.
He's funny because I've never been much of an Akuma dude, but
You are now.
times may be a changing.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been good at fighting games in general, and I've only ever really played them in arcade, and I was always Zangief for Cammy. So
Yeah,
it's, you know,
and we've seen footage of like Jamie, and he's cool because he's drunk in kung fu.
oh, that's
Um,
fun as hell.
yeah, so he's crazy and fun.
You think I'd be a Guile, you know? You think I'd be all about that guile, but
He's got a beard.
yeah, I know. Everyone's got a beard now. It's the new hotness. That's why I'm
Yeah,
going mustache, baby.
I mean, since we're openly talking about it, I think this character JP is my favorite design. He looks very SNK. I gotta say for JP.
It's the Japanese character, so if I don't recognize JP, which country is he from?
He's actually great. Get this, Russia.
Oh, no shit, the dude in the tux?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sick as hell. Is that a salmon tux? It takes
Yes.
balls. Fighting white shoes with a cane. My man is over here wearing a fucking vest. Do you know how hard it is to fight in suit
Yeah.
pants? This is bullshit. And then he's got a
I
cape.
worry he's gonna be some weird, like, projectile based character. He's just constantly setting up projectiles or something. I don't know. I'm curious to see how it turns out.
I
But
hope
like,
he's just like clubbing. He's just caning people.
yeah.
He's just over and over clubbing people with his cane. That's what I want to see.
I want to see like reversals and like cane whackings, just but a lot of the new characters are very SNK in design. Like Kimberly looks very SNK. Lily looks like SNK, but from like an offshoot SNK, like one of their lesser known fighting games. Like an Art of
Yeah.
Fighting or something. Or even like maybe even because she's holding 2 weapons, maybe even a Sam Show offshoot or something. So yeah, Lily's interesting, but she looks like off, one of the crazier SNK designs. JP looks SNK, Kimberly looks SNK. AKI Aki, and there's dots there. She definitely looks SNK. So
Yeah, they
there
all
was kind of
kinda look
some I've
SNK.
been. It's funny because I've been saying that since like 4, where like they added new character like C Viper. I'm like, she looks like an SNK character to me.
Isn't she also just like a CIA agent or something like that?
Something like that,
Yeah.
yeah. Abel and Fuerte look like Virtua Fighter characters. They're really boring. Like Ed looks like a Virtua Fighter character. And Virtua Fighter, I love Virtua Fighter, favorite 3D fighter, but it's kind of defined by its fucking boring ass character designs.
Yeah, I can't even think of a single character out of Virtua Fighter.
Well, Virtua Fighter is like is as much as it can be the most realistic of 3D fighters. There's no projectiles, there's no magic, there's no supers. It's all very, very heavily
Slapping hands.
Yeah, and they scrutinize the shit out of their mocap, very heavily mocapped from very specific fighting styles. So it's not realistic, but it's the most realistic if there were to be one.
Oh, that's kind of cool, yeah.
And that's why it's boring, but whatever, it's fine. I love it anyways. but yeah, like I guess you're kind of right. It's not really a problem, you know. You just have the original 8. That's all you should just.
Is Virtua Fighter the hand job of fighting games?
I mean, it definitely will satisfy you.
It's boring, but it's fine. I like it. You know, no one's ever gonna say no to a hand job.
I feel you're really underselling hand jobs.
I mean, given the menu, though, is that the one you go for first?
Well, no, it just like I feel that's that's a little. It's almost just. It's funny because I'm sitting here calling it boring and mean, and I'm like, Andrew, you're underselling a good.
Sure, but like a good round of Virtua Fighter is pretty fucking good. Good hand job's pretty good, but you know, you're never gonna pick it over, say, you know, anything else.
Right. Like, and then he gets like Marvel versus Capcom, which is like a straight up 69 or something.
I'm fucked up in the head. All right. Anyway,
Andrew wants to equate fighting games to sex positions.
it just I don't know why it popped in my head. I'm sorry. But you were saying?
I don't even know because Marvel vs. Capcom is a 69 is just kind of like now just like
the venerable 69. You know what I was noticing about Blanca, by the way? Blanca's always been kind of a beastly character, but he looks almost orcish. You know, like this classic drawings
I think it's because the
bandana. Oh, he looks like ears. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I thought that was a beard and ears.
Yeah, the bandana's throwing it off a bit, I think. He's actually got overalls on. He's got like this farmer shit going.
Yeah, man, because overalls are super useful. I don't know why everyone's hating on overalls. They're fucking great.
Yeah, well, I guess I've not really worn them, so it's not really a farmer. But
I loved
yeah, like
I loved overalls as a kid. I got bullied over overalls as a kid.
Definitely seems like the kind of thing someone would get bullied over.
Did I deserve it? Maybe. You ever look back in hindsight and be like, I deserved that bullying a little bit?
Oh yeah, there was this one kid who apparently they were like, this kid will fight you and he will not stop fighting you if you because his name was like Diego or something, and they're like, never say Lego my ego Diego to him. They're like, he will chase you down and he will beat you up, and he will not stop. And I was just kind of like, nah, it's bullshit. And I did it like in front of yard duties.
You deserve to get beat up.
He was like this little like he was like a gnome on fucking acid or something. So he like runs up and like climbs up and just like gets me in a headlock and just you know, straight like doing really. Well, they didn't really hurt that much. It was just
sounds
like,
epic as shit. He climbed you?
Yes, like he chased me down, climbed up on top of me, and just started like hitting me in the head a whole bunch. And I wasn't even hurt by it because, yeah, I mean he had heart. He hit like a bitch, but like he had heart. And then like after it was all over, you know, he did it right in front of like fucking 3 yard duties. And I came out and I just my hair was just mostly rough, and I was just kind of like, the fuck? and I'm sitting there, I'm like, you know what? Everyone told me this would happen, and I didn't, and I had to sit there and find out. So it was like,
yeah, you deserved that.
I deserved it. I couldn't be upset about it. I was mostly just sort of like confused as to like how someone could be. I guess I mean, I'm a little kid at this point, but I was like, wow, like that's all it takes. Like you could literally just say like these magic words, and this kid turns into a little raging gnome monster on PCP or something.
I don't know if I had to hear that shit 100 times straight. Yeah. Number 100, getting a smackdown. Gonna taste knuckle.
Well, like I said, he kind of hit like a bitch, so like I wasn't even hurt or bruised or crying or anything. I was just kind of like,
I'm not gonna fault the guy for being little.
Yeah, well, it was like I summoned a dust devil.
My man Diego sounds like exactly the guy I want on my team in the fight, because now you look up Diego now, he's probably a little fucking knot.
Well, dude, yeah. Oh, dude, if he
jujitsu and eats nothing but protein supplements,
not do it as a kid. But I'm like, once he hit adulthood and if he worked out and buffed out, I'm like, that kid be fucking dangerous.
Vicious.
Yeah,
climbed you
if
like a
he
tree and just started whipping on
yeah
your
if he got some muscle behind those punches, he'd actually be dangerous. As it was at the time, he was mostly just a Tasmanian devil. Well, a cartoon Tasmanian devil, really, not a real one. Um,
That's what that's what we need in Street Fighter 6 is we need like a short king that just like really gets in it.
like a Choi from SNK, like the little Freddy Krueger guy.
Yeah, he's like just he's 5'5", but he says he's 5'10", and he's got a hair trigger on his anger issues, and then he just like whips ass, man. He does nothing but roundhouse kicks so that he has a normal human's reach. Like, you
Oh,
make him dangerous because walking forward just in general is his light kick, and he's doing nothing but roundhouse kicks to move forward across the screen. He's slow, but he's dangerous. It's beautiful. I feel like we really got onto something here.
well, yeah, and really though, I think you kind of said it best. We're just like, yeah, you just always have the original 8. I guess there is no getting away from the original 8. And then, as you say, it's not really a bad thing. Like, you have beloved characters, they always show up. Does that kind
No,
of suck for like? Does that suck for new characters? Like, say you were a big C Viper fan, and she's basically been MIA since. Like, I think she was in Marvel 3, but then that was it. Like, never showed up. Didn't show up in 5. Not showing up in 6, as far as we can tell. Like,
well, I think that's a bummer for every fan of a fighting game in general.
mhm.
Uh, you're
Like,
always
if you're
going to get
not
shafted.
there, at the beginning with the starting roster that blows up, like, you're always gonna have to second guess if that character will return.
Maybe. I feel like that's just there's so many really popular characters that are returning purely because they're popular. Like, look, Sea Viper. How popular was Sea Viper? If you
Mm.
really loved a niche character, I know that sucks that you don't get to have your character, but like, if your character's not that fucking popular, I mean, that's just how it breaks down. I'm sorry, that sucks, but you can't really be that mad. Well, no, that's not fair. It's the internet. You can be mad as hell. You'd be fuck. My new favorite saying is being fuck ass mad.
I mean, you're kind of right. Like, yeah, I mean, this is kind of way the cookie crumbles. But then you got characters like fucking Ed, who no one liked. Ed, fuck Ed. I'm totally gonna get so much Ed fucking Defense Force up in here.
We're
And
gonna
I'm
have
like Ed. I'm
all
like
the
Ed. No one liked him. Everyone hated him. Looked boring as shit. Everyone hated everything about it. Here's Ed. I'm back for Street Fighter 5 or 6. All these other new characters in 5. Only me and a couple others are coming back. Hey, I get it. I'm Ed. Like,
I mean,
it's like when this character shows up because he's a producer's favorite, right? Like, not because anyone else likes the character, but like some reason, some producer, someone high up enough on the development team loves Ed, so fucking Ed has to keep showing up. The Frank West syndrome. I don't know if you're familiar with the Frank West syndrome.
why they just kept
Where
putting Frank West and everything.
So yes, because Capcom Japan was apparently convinced that America loves Frank West, and all it did was piss people off
Well, he's
because
covered wars,
when when they started Tatsunoko versus Capcom, they basically got the ability to bring it to America. And this was back when Seth still worked at Capcom, and he pulled all kinds of strings to get that game released here. And then when it came time to add a couple characters to the game for the American release, and he really wanted to push Leon Kennedy, but apparently Capcom was like, nah, Frank West. People love Frank West. People love Frank West so much more that instead of getting a Resident Evil game that used the RE4 engine on the Wii, they instead made a Dead Rising port using the RE4 engine on the Wii. Because Capcom was convinced Frank West, that's what America loves. America loves Frank West. Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is coming out. We're going to add some new characters to the roster. Frank West. Frank West. People love Frank West in America. Frank West represents America. And like, I almost want to find out who in Japan. I just want to talk to them. I just want to talk. No, I don't want
I
to talk.
thought they were just trying to promote Dead Rising. Like they were just
No,
trying to get some more
according,
sales.
I don't know if it was exactly Seth or something, but like they basically had a statement at one point, like for some reason Capcom of Japan is convinced that Joe Sixpack in America, everyone loves Frank West, and it was kind of like a battle he lost, basically, to put Leon in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, but no, Frank West, and then he shows up in Marvel 3 and Ultimate Marvel 3, and it's like, then we're gonna have a big DLC for Frank West in Dead Rising 3, and then we're gonna have Frank West be in Dead Rising 4. Everyone hates Dead Rising 4, and it kills the fucking series. And now Capcom is finally like, well, I guess people don't like Frank West. Like, yeah, no fucking shit, people don't like Frank West.
You know, my big problem with Ed here is that his design in the art that they're showing for him is he just looks like, I don't know, a
boring
German clubber.
Yeah.
Like, you think he's on E, like every punch he takes, he's just like, oh yeah. Like, he just like really loves that shit. Or
really
like, instead of punching you, he just kind of like feels your skin. Like, he's so high on E. Like, he looks like an emo kid who stopped dyeing his hair. Like, you just like
sort of like let it rot, and then like it's sort of like bleached state.
my dude's straight ripped though. Gotta appreciate that.
Very fucking ripped, and very dehydrated. But Jesus, yeah. Honestly, you look at that leak list. Everyone looks cool or unique except fucking Ed. Ed sucks.
He does look like a little bit of a dick.
He looks more generic than Guile.
How dare you, Guile?
Like, I mean, he's just a America man, America Army man. Like, nobody looks more plain than Ed. I mean, even divorced Ken looks more interesting than Ed.
Ken just looks more and more like Patrick Swayze from Point Blank. Every subsequent release, it's just Ken looking more and more like a tired Patrick Swayze from Point Blank. I'm here for it.
I don't know. I love it. With a roster with such interesting looking designs going on it, and just like fucking Ed just sitting here.
Yeah, Ed's, he just looking like you zero in on him as one. I mean, he is waxed. He's waxed from the chin down. Yeah. Like, my man has no hair on his body. But two, pretty plain looking.
Yep.
And he's right next to Jury.
Yeah. And he's only two. So and he's only two away from Luke, who would otherwise be the most generic, boring-looking character on this roster.
The second most boring. Yeah, it sort of sucks because Ed's sandwiched between Jury and Akuma, and they both look sick as fuck. And he just like,
yeah.
I don't know. At any moment, he looks like he's just gonna start singing a love ballad. Maybe, I don't know what. Something about him. I don't know. He just like doesn't look like he belongs so hard. Everyone else looks like they're here to kick ass, and he's just like,
yeah, like you said, like he's about to drop some E, then go do his set for Chippendales.
Yeah, like he's just gonna start doing like that hand dancing in like a club somewhere. Just I gotta be honest. Honda looks pretty sick. Dawson looks cool. He should have always had a beard out the ass. Look at that beard. God damn. Zangief, even though he's a coward and not he's wearing like a more traditional wrestler's outfit, I guess.
It's probably because of new Russian laws. He was turning too many men gay in that Speedo, so they forced him to wear pants.
Well, you know what it is that does it for me? It's that lower back muscle that runs up the spine, the spinous erecti. Mm. Oh, when that's built, ooh, I think about it. Yeah, I do love that Giles looks like he's in winter gear, but he cut off the sleeves.
So he can show off his guns.
You know what? Guile looks like the American version of Wolverine. Like, Wolverine's Canadian, and they're just like, we need an American Wolverine, and he's just gonna be sleeveless and in a denim jacket with, it's like a trucker jacket. Yeah.
Well, it's almost like I couldn't at first. I was like unsure until that footage came out. Was it Game Awards or Game Fest or whatever?
Yeah, Summer's Game Fest.
At first, I wasn't even sure. I'm like, is he like in like a fighter pilot, like, onesie or whatever single suit? But no, it's not that. But his stage looks dope on an aircraft carrier, which it's kind of like, yeah, that's a natural extension because he was like, you're on the base on the ground, and two.
I thought he was Air Force though.
He is Air Force, which aircraft carrier is Navy. But you think Japan pays attention to that shit?
No, that's fair. That's fair. And look, I don't have to care about that. I don't care all
Here's
that
a
much.
weird thing. Like, the Navy has a ton of jet fighters, right?
Right.
Wouldn't that be the Air Force? Why isn't that the Air Force?
I mean, technically, the Air Force is supposed to be a part of the Army.
Right, because it was the Army Air Corps.
The Navy is in charge of all
my own
expeditionary. The Navy's in charge of all expeditionary, well, I guess units, which is why the Marine Corps falls under the Navy. And so the Navy Air Force, or the Navy, fighter pilots and bombers and all that stuff, because they all come off of a ship.
Yeah, well, they take off from the ship. It's just interesting. You'd think, like, wouldn't if you were not American, right, and you had very little idea how American worked, you would assume, like, oh, there's 4 branches of the military. There's the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, and the Marines.
There's 5. There's Space Force, bitch.
Well, I know there's Space Force.
Get hard. Join Space Force.
I get it. Hasn't even officially started?
And there's the Coast Guard. So there's 6. Yeah,
there's technically 6, but it has started. Okay, I couldn't remember if it actually. I know they were like, "Hey, we're going to unveil the flag design soon," or whatever. I'm like, oh my god, this is whatever.
They're gonna.
But you would think Air Force. Air Force is where the jets come. No, like Navy. Okay, and the Navy gives the Marines the ride wherever, anytime they need to go somewhere.
Yeah, and the Army has its own Air Corps too, and so does the Marine Corps.
To quote a few good men.
Yep.
Anytime we need to go somewhere, you're always there to give us a ride.
So last thoughts. I guess let's end on a positive note. Coolest looking character, period, from the new
JP.
Or do you want to give it your top 3 coolest looking characters?
JP, Kuma.
Akuma's number 1. I don't know why the fuck you're saying JP number 1. JP's fine looking, but he ain't cool like Akuma's cool.
I don't know. JP, Akuma. I don't know. I kind of like torn between like Rashid, DJ, Cammy for part 3.
Oh, see, I like Akuma, Honda, and Cammy are probably my 3 favorites. Yeah. Maybe Cammy over E Honda. Maybe.
I like E Honda's business suit they gave him as an alternate in 5, like Yakuza E Honda. I remember Max was saying that when it was rumored if he would show up in 5 or 9. He was like, "Oh, they should make him like a fucking Yakuza boss." And I was like, "Yeah, I kind of like that idea."
Pretty slick, yeah. I love that he's a sumo wrestler that is all muscle. He's still round like a sumo wrestler, but he's like got abs.
Yeah.
My dude's a knot.
He's really pushing the bear fat there.
All right, so the question for Twitter/YouTube comments, which we do read all those. Thank you for everyone who reached out about last episode's audio. I did actually know that it was messed up. It was the best that I could do with the backup. With the backup track, but I do read those comments, and it is me that does all the audio work. I am not an audio engineer, so do call it out. If I haven't noticed, you'll be saving my ass, so I appreciate it. But the question is, who is the coolest looking character of this roster since it's leaked and we've all seen it? I hope you're not avoiding it, because it's literally everywhere. I've seen it 3 times on Twitter.
Yeah, it's hard to avoid.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, and I guess the greater question is, like, whether or not, like, are we always going to have the original 8, the World Warriors? Will World Warriors be a part of Street Fighter forever? And I guess the answer is yes.
The answer is yes. I don't see a world where that is not the case. Unless they do like some weird, like they release this and then they release a side game that's called Street Fighter, but it's like a new class. That kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that was 3, new gen.
Oh, see, I forgot about it, so it didn't do well.
It did not do well at all, so.
But as always, we have patrons to thank. If you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames Podcast. Dude of the week was God Knight. Thank you, God Knight. And our producers for this episode are The Arnett, Scrunami, Koroi35, HyperViper89, Ziggy Z, and Online Persona. Thank you, dudes, and we will catch you next time.